Reform UK stands to be the big winner in Britain's local elections. The right-wing Populist Party looks to gain more than 600 council seats. The Tories in opposition down 300, and the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer's Labour Party off 450 at the moment. Sir Keir's taken responsibility for the results, even so still rules out resigning. As for the winner, or the seeming winner, the Reforms UK's leader Nigel Farage, he says the election marks a turning point.
But I think overall what's happened is a truly historic shift in British politics. We've been so used to thinking about politics in terms of left and right, and yet what Reform are able to do is to win in areas that have always been conservative, but equally we're proving in a big way we can win in areas that Labour have dominated, frankly, since the end of World War I.
Now, the British political field would appear to be wide open. A century of ping-ponging between the two major parties, Labour and Conservative, backwards and forwards, with occasional interruptions from the Liberals and then the Liberal Democrats. The potential shift is showing such uncertainty amongst fixed income investors. The 30-year, look at that, 30-year gilts hit their highest level in 28 years. That is a reflection of uncertainty along with high borrowing costs, and certainly makes it very difficult for government running such huge deficits as they are at the moment. John Rentoul is the Independent's chief political commentator, visiting professor at King's College London. John, always good to see you, so I'm so grateful. But, you know, you and I have been around a bit, and we've heard over... Well, we've heard over the years, this is the end of the duopoly. It's all over. Turn off the lights. And we saw the Lib Lab Pact, we saw the Conservative, we saw all of these things. Do you believe this is a fundamental change now?
It does feel a bit like it, doesn't it? I mean, on previous occasions, there's always been talk of a breakthrough from a third party, like the Social Democrats in the 1980s, and then the Liberal Democrats later on. But we have never seen a five-party system like the one we have at the moment, with the two new parties, Reform, the big anti-immigration party, and the Greens, coming in to challenge the two established parties who, as you say, have been the duopoly for 100 years.
So if we extrapolate out, which we all will love to do, even though every psophologist tells us that local elections are not indicative of what would happen on the big day and the big vote, but Farage would have the most seats, but maybe not a majority, and then you're into who would get into bed with him in government.
Yes, I mean, you know, although there are five parties, there are still really only two main blocks in British politics, and the assumption would be that the Conservatives and Reform would work together, and that Labour, the Greens, and the Lib Dems would work together if, you know, whichever grouping had a majority in Parliament. So maybe it wouldn't be that much of a revolution, but yeah, as the psephologists say, Richard, you know, we've got 3 years to go to a general election, and almost anything can happen.
I know, and at that point, you and I roll our eyes and say, oh, please, let's have a good argy-bargy. Now, look, of the two major parties, Labour and Conservative, now, either can make an argument for saying it was bad but not disastrous, but which party do you think is in most trouble?
Well, that's a tough question, because, I mean, Labour ought to be in a lot of trouble, but they are in government, and so they do have power, and they do have some sort of sense of initiative. They can actually control what happens to a certain extent. Whereas the Conservatives, having got turfed out of power in 2024, are really at the mercy of Nigel Farage and Reform, who are establishing themselves as the main party of the right in British politics. So I'd say the Conservatives, although, you know, Kemi Badenoch, their leader, has acquitted herself well. She's quite a feisty performer, but I think her party is in deep trouble.
This is a tricky one. Is Keir Starmer as bad as the critics would suggest, in terms of the way. Well, what I mean is, in terms of the way he's there. People say he's in government but not leading. He's in power but, but not actually doing anything. Is he actually that bad?
No, he isn't, obviously. But what is very striking, and you see it particularly in these kind of midterm protest elections, is how personally unpopular he is. I find it a little bit baffling because, I mean, he seems a bit dull to me, but perfectly well-meaning and not as incompetent as he is portrayed. But the people have taken against him. They just don't like him. They think that he promised them the earth in the 2024 general election, and he hasn't delivered, and he's made a lot of mistakes. And I think he has more or less run out of road. I mean, politicians can be very unpopular and then claw their way back, but you have to have some exceptional qualities like Margaret Thatcher did to be able to do that. And I don't think Keir Starmer's got those qualities. So the question is, when's he going to be replaced and who by? And we didn't come any closer to answering those questions in those elections yesterday.
Gosh, very glad you were with us this evening to put that into perspective. Thank you, John. We'll talk more as things move on. Thank you.